frozen squall where I could seek shelter. Numbly, I wiped my hands over my eyes in disbelief. Was that a light? A yellow glow, muted and soft, appeared briefly through the snow, and then disappeared. Hope shot through me, and I turned the horse in that direction. Mason. I'll get more wood for morning, I told Brody, who was working at his desk. We were in the parlour, the fire in the hearth heating the room from the house beyond against the bitter cold night. Wind and snow rattled the windows. I went to one and pulled back the thick curtain. All I could see was my own reflection, and snow blowing sideways. I imagine the wood pile will be buried by then. Brody looked up from some papers he'd been studying. Is the box in the kitchen full? I'll check and stoke the stove before bed. My friend just nodded and returned to his work. There wasn't much ranching to be done in the dead of winter, beyond making sure the cows didn't drop dead out in weather such as this, and tending to the horses. The days were short, the nights long. Only the hardiest of men survived in the Montana Territory, but for me, for Brody and the rest of the men from our regiment who built the Bridgewater ranch, it was home. For Kane and Ian, they had their wife Emma to help them pass the time, and with the noticeable way her belly was growing, they'd been quite busy. Andrew and Robert and Anne had their infant son Christopher to keep them quite occupied. It was the bachelors of Bridgewater who endured the long winter nights alone. I sighed, wondering if Brody and I would ever find the woman for us. It wasn't an easy task finding a woman who had married 2 men, for that was what we'd have, a wife for both of us. That was our way, the way of the men of Bridgewater. Find a woman, make her ours, cherish, protect, and possess her for the rest of our lives. I sighed to myself as I shrugged into my shearling coat, flipped up the collar, and slipped on leather gloves. A woman wouldn't be appearing tonight no matter how much I wished for it. As I opened the back door, a blast of frigid air struck me full force, swirling snow into the kitchen. I stepped outside quickly, shutting the door behind me, keeping the warm air inside. On more clement weather, I could see the lights of the other houses off in the distance. Tonight, however, there was nothing but black and white. Stacked beneath the eaves of the house was a pile of wood, big enough to sustain us for the winter. Grabbing a few logs, I piled them in my arms, went inside, carried them into the parlour, and piled them on the hearth. Need help? Brody asked, still at work. I shook my head. Another load here and one in the kitchen. I'm going up to bed when I'm done. Night? Brody replied absently, focused on his work. Once again in the bitter outdoors, I piled more wood on my forearm. It was as I picked up the last log that I heard a horse whinnying. I paused. All the horses were in the stable for the duration of the storm. They wouldn't survive outdoors on a night like this. No doubt we'd have a cow or 2 dead by morning. The wind kicked up as snow slid down my neck. Lifting my shoulders, I winced at the coldness against my skin. I was hearing things. There. I heard it again. It was a horse. This time the whinny sounded more like a scream. I'd heard it before. A horse in pain. Injured. I looked out into the darkness but could see nothing. No animal, nothing was in sight, just snow. It was up to my ankles, no doubt the accumulation would build overnight. By morning the drifts would be waist high if the wind sustained. Had one of the other men missed a horse? Was it wandering out in this weather? I put the pile of wood back, opened the door, and yelled for Brody. He came quickly. I heard a horse. I'm going to go look for it. Brody was surprised. That's odd. Could be the wind. Could be, I agreed. I have to check. I don't want to lose an animal to this. He held up a hand. You'll need a lantern, and take the rifle. He went to the gun rack where 6 rifles were vertically aligned on the wall, ready for any kind of emergency. On Bridgewater there was always a chance for danger. Brody picked one and checked the barrel before handing it to me. He picked up another for himself. Give me 5 minutes and fire a shot, I told him, ensuring I knew which direction to return. I won't go far. Don't get lost because I don't want to go out in that bloody weather to find you. He grinned. I couldn't blame him. I didn't want to go out in this weather either. But I had heard a horse. I wouldn't be able to sleep if I didn't check. After slinging the rifle over my shoulder, I tucked my collar up around my neck again and forged a path out into the snow. After about 10 steps, I paused, listening. Wind. Nothing but wind. Wait, there. I turned toward the sound, walked in that direction. 1 minute, then 2, then another. It was slow going in the deep drifts, fighting the wind. I finally saw it. The animal was only about 10 feet in front of me, lying on its side. Thankfully it had a dark coat, otherwise I might have missed it. I squatted down by